there was another sort of reading experience that I was remembering thinking about your topic, which is that my mum was reading Zadie Smith's novel On Beauty, and she sort of started reading it thinking it was an original novel, and then gradually realized that it was a kind of reworking of E.M. Forster's novel, Howard's End. And that seems to be a kind of interesting mirror image of a lot of these things you're describing, where there it's not the knowledge that it's retelling a familiar story that draws you into it, or at least in my mum's case, but you it's more like a gradual dawning that something you thought was going to be unfamiliar actually is more familiar than you realized.
Yeah, so that's I'm glad you brought up that example, actually. I go back and forth about what to do about Zadie Smith's relationship to great modernist novels. Because I've often thought that I want to write about On Beauty and Howard's End, and I'd like to write about N.W. and Mrs. Dalloway, which I think are also...
Mrs. Dalloway being another modernist classic.
Yes. And I think that her engagements with these earlier texts I find really fascinating, and I'm not sure exactly yet where they fit into my sort of rubric of revisitation. Yeah, I think you're right that there is something. The reason I've had difficulty going to it is that you have to, if you know Howard's End weirdly like the back of your hand, like I do, which I think most people probably would not say they do.
So that's kind of the novel equivalent for you of Beauty and the Beast, where you were kind of able to watch the remake and be like, oh, this is exactly the same shot, this is the same pacing.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed it in On Beauty, which I think it's actually quite a contentious text. Like, you either like love it or hate it, I think. But I really loved On Beauty. And if you really love Howard's End also, and it's like, or if you've just read it and it's fresh in your mind, you can recognize it in the first sentence. The first sentence of Howard's End is, "One may as well begin with Helen's letters to her sister." The first sentence of On Beauty is, "One may as well begin with Jerome's emails to his father."
Okay, right? So letters become emails.
Yeah, but that's a great opening sentence either way, right? And there's a kind of red herring in the email where you're like, this is obviously a contemporary fiction about contemporary people sending emails to each other. But yeah, even if you do not know Howard's End on that granular level, the similarities do become clearer, right? So you begin to see similar plot patterns and similar characters come into play. If you're familiar with Forster's novel, and various moments that Smith actually does rewrite in a way that she doesn't do sort of like wholesale in the novel. So there's a really remarkable chapter in Forster's novel where some characters go to a concert and you hear Beethoven described through this series of amazing metaphors, like elephants walking over the surface of the earth and stuff like that. It's this really magical, like delightful chapter. And we get a sort of replay of that, or a remix of it with Smith, where some of her characters go to see a concert where they see Mozart's Requiem performed in a similar sort of poetic and playful reenactment of the experience of listening, the sort of ekphrastic writing.
With similar metaphors, or kind of ones that echo those metaphors, like the elephants?
Ones that are sort of reminiscent in some ways, but are not, again, like not a direct shot for shot in filmic terms. Yeah, so I think, as you said, it is a kind of slow burn redo.